So some quick insights about us and who we are. If you've never seen me or anyone else before, from Exceptional Individuals, my name is Ruth-Ellen. We actually deliver community webinars, coaching and training to neurodiverse individuals. And 80% of our team are neurodivergent. We have a strengths-based approach as well, and we are a social enterprise. Joining us today, your co-host, April. As you can see, autistic, volunteering for EI since 2019. I'm not going to read it all out, but just amazing how much value she brings the team as well, in terms of being able to just be on sessions like this, help us record, creating amazing content for us as well, and really increasing the reach that we have to the world. So thank you, April, for being here. Okay, my name is Ruth-Ellen. I am, this is my disclaimer, I'm neurodiverse, which basically has a mixture of dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, and ADHD, which means I might slur my words at times. Other times I might speak too fast. And there are other great things about me, but I could go on all day. It's not about me. It's about you and helping you all to interact. But just to give you my disclaimer, because us sharing who we are makes this a safe space. Makes this a space where it's like judgment-free, where we're going to be open to all those ideas, where we're going to be able to encourage and show up, remind my spelling mistakes, as our whole selves, right? We want to bring our whole selves. We want to have those safe spaces. So let's create a safe space for you. Beginning. So what type of agreements help you to be seen, heard, and valued? What do I need to help to facilitate, whether that is the speed, whether that is the explanation, whether that is more time for you to interact? What would help you be seen, heard, and valued in this space? And let me know what you want to disclaim, what you want to kind of share that might help you feel like this is a safe space. Make it interactive as much as possible. Keep an eye on the chat for questions, more time to understand what's being said, interactive, more time. And so, yeah, thank you for sharing. It's going to be an interactive session as much as possibly can online. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. This is a space where you get to share your experience and, yeah, rephrasing things. I'm going to be slow as possible to make sure that we have as much inclusive communication here as well. Allowed to speak freely, acknowledging your feelings and not dismissing them, sharing your own experiences. Fantastic. So I'm going to go as slow as I can, but I'm going to try to honor all of this that you've stated as much as possible so that we've got you be fully seen and heard. Non-judgmental with anyone's experiences. It's great. This is our rules of engagement, things that are going to help you to be fully seen, heard, and valued. You can answer out loud as well. Just keep your, if you can, be as concise as possible just because of time. So feel free to go off mute and share what makes you be seen, heard, and valued as well. Now, what is one way you actually minimize communication misunderstandings at the moment? What is just one way? You know, living with ADHD, maybe that's whether you're supporting a person with ADHD or you have ADHD. What's that one way you help to minimize communication and misunderstandings? I want to make sure I'm building upon things that you already know so that we can add things on to your library of resources internally. So this might take a little bit of thinking time. Again, I'm going to go really slow to make sure that you've got everything you need. So one way you minimize communication, misunderstandings when living with ADHD. Got a few of you here, got visuals, having a visual, which is great, right? Because this is a visual experience. Focusing on speaking slowly, clearly, and loud enough. Asking clarifying questions, using visuals as well as verbal info, bullet points and lists. I do love a good bullet point. Checking, understanding, explaining back, trying to script before I speak, minimizing distractions, summarize what has been said, and also to give my ADHD and dyslexic brain the time and space to process and for someone to correct. Learning to ask questions more openly, and purposely keeping quiet to prevent myself saying something impulsively that I feel anxious about afterwards. So great. So these are fantastic, because truth be told, most of these are going to be peppered in to what we're going to be discussing. So do take note of these ones, because they are gold. These are people's lived experiences, things that have worked for them, right? And so if you don't use some of these, take note of them, because that's going to be really helpful moving forward for you. Start with what I want to say, outlining what I understand the question to be as well. Fantastic. Summarizing what I've been told in an email back to the person. It could be more than one way. If you've got more golden nuggets, please do share. Again, I'm just respecting what you said at the beginning of what helps you be seen, heard, and valued. Taking my time to make sure that you've got time to process what's being asked as well. Okay, writing it down visually before articulating it. You'd rather someone calls you rather than emails to clarify something. It takes time to process information. Okay, fantastic. Summarize what you've been told in an email back to the person. If you're leading a session, you write a loose script so you can follow so you don't miss anything. Fantastic. So again, these are the ways that you minimize communication misunderstandings. And you can see the collectiveness of all of this. If we are able to share, we're going to be much more richer for it, right? Because you're going to save years that's taken a person to find ways that have worked for them. Ask colleagues to email me when they give verbal requests in order for me to address it correctly. Having everything written. Fantastic. Okay. So amazing. So from now, you know what's you kind of already know. You've shared collectively. You've probably got some really great nuggets. What's the most important thing for you to learn around ADHD and communication when it comes to minimizing those misunderstandings? What would make it real worthwhile for you to be like, I got something out of this session? Do share. One of the other ways that others have minimized misunderstanding is to test my assumptions, which is great. Okay. So what's going to be in this? What would be helpful for you? We've got writing concisely, learning what causes difficulties with communication, learn ways to coach ADHD clients effectively, range of different strategies as not everything will suit everyone, practical tips, how people can avoid misunderstandings that can cause them undue anxiety, a helpful tool that has worked for others in the past. Great. And just to clarify, yeah, not everything's going to work, will suit everyone. And I've got that covered as well. Understanding why misunderstandings happen, similar to coach counseling ADHD clients. Okay. Helping to understand when verbal interactions have escalated into arguments or others becoming annoyed with me without me knowing how it happened. And you know what? If we don't cover it in this, you're giving me great ways to feed back into EI's work, and to create blog posts on this, so that that's created for you in a more deeper way. So thanks. Even if we don't cover it today, just sharing what you want will mean that we still get to create that content and help support you in that way. How to stay focused on the speaker, not zone out or butt in, even when I know that they're going to say a word, I'll forget my point. How to put things right if I misunderstanding has occurred. Ways to ensure other people can understand me when I speak. How to be concise, not rambling, to tell others when I can't absorb what they say. Okay, fantastic. Other things are tactics to avoid dominating conversations or talking too long. How to be understood by neurotypical people. However, I am able to share the PDF of this, so you have some info as well, if that's helpful. At least then it's in a list for you. So that might work for those that are visual. Similarities and differences between ADHD and autism. I believe my colleague has done videos on that before, so if there's anything around that, I will forward those on in links. How not to hyper-focus to a particular point and how to regain focus on the remaining discourse. How to communicate an ADHD accommodation in a way that doesn't sound like an excuse. So I'm posting to written resources that could be used. How to communicate. This is what's coming up. I'm going to share a few ways to address some of the common communication problems ADHD can sometimes make challenging. Just a few. It's not an exhaustive list, but there's a few. I'm going to share with you a 4-step process to help you navigate the important conversations with more ease. So it's 4 steps, really simple, and there might be time to explore that further. And then at the end, just some signposting as to how EI can help support you moving forward as well. I want to honor all of you as well in terms of what you said at the beginning when I asked, what would you need? And so one of the reasons why we're doing this work is because being repeatedly misunderstood can mean that we then start to feel like we can't trust ourselves. And then our sense of self can be put into question. And so before we even doing this work, just understanding actually these being misunderstood can have those repercussions as well. And so just take that in for a second, because oftentimes we're just thinking, oh, as long as other people understand us, that's fine. But there might be times when we're speaking, we're communicating, we're articulating ourselves, but people might still misunderstand us. And there's so much we can actually do, so much we can control. And we need to recognize that sometimes if we don't recognize the effort we're making and give ourselves some compassion towards ourselves when we are communicating, then that could impact us greatly. So just something to kind of honor and understand before we do this work. So from your lived experiences, what causes misunderstandings? What have you encountered? What has caused misunderstandings in the past when you've been misunderstood? What do you think it is? Just from your perspective. There's no right or wrong. It's just based on your lived experience. Getting tired more easily than others. Yeah, our cognitive functions are going to get more tired because we're doing a lot of work, right? Especially if we're finding ourselves masking in certain scenarios too. And that could mean that we're misunderstood even more. So other things that have come up for you all: limited vocabulary, sometimes oversharing, assuming people think the same way. Yeah, like the way I've decoded information might not be the same as others. Messaging doesn't convey tone, people taking their tone out of context as well, which kind of follows through to the using language without realizing how others will take it. Having your point lost to focus on a phrase you used that the other has misinterpreted. So yeah, again, going back to decoding our meanings behind words. Again, about the tone, not knowing where you're coming from, your intentions. Responding with emotions instead of thinking through what I want to actually say. Seeing situations differently to others, explaining things that are misconstrued. These are a few, right? There's being blunt, direct, assuming you know what the other person has said, saying the wrong words when you meant something else, which can lead to arguments. The other person thought you meant something different. RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, absolutely, definitely can impact it as well. People changing the goalpost as well. Yep, absolutely. Lack of emotional regulation, schemas based on skewed perspectives, tone, zoning out, people think you're not listening, overthinking emails, rejection sensitivity again, mixed messages, laughing or having facial expressions inappropriate times, struggling to mask, disorganized thoughts, RSD again, taking things negatively or personally, eye contact, transparency seen as being mean, judgmental, blunt. What causes misunderstanding? And just to clarify, right, what we're seeing here is us normalizing. Actually, we all feel misunderstood and get misunderstood from time to time. And there's a variety of reasons as to why that might be. It isn't just one thing, and it isn't just one person, right? So all of these are people's responses. So you're not going to necessarily choose an answer, but if you resonate with some of these, then that's great, right? It just shows we're not alone here. Using imagery and metaphors that people often find them weird and wonder how the brain came up with that. So yeah, judging, right? Judgment from others. Expectation of group thinking. So when you think differently from others, there's a miscommunication, misunderstanding there. Not feeling able to respond when misunderstood, and clear how to go forward without making it worse. And then responding to other people's stories of our own to identify with them and show your understanding, but coming across making it about you. So it's a variety of reasons, right? And wow, the people take up, misunderstand us a lot, right? Again, we're not alone here. This is normal for us. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. Again, these are just some that you've kind of shared already, and just adding onto this, emotional dysregulation, RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, that implicit versus explicit communication. Sometimes you've got unspoken rules in the office or unspoken rules in society, and that can mean there's misunderstandings as well. Like when people say things, sometimes we can take it literally, sometimes we might not. Either way, there might be a lack of clarity there. Differing definitions. I might have an understanding of a definition and how I use it and what it means to me, but somebody else might decode it completely differently, hence the misunderstanding. The delivery structure, as in I might articulate something, or you might articulate something in a way that people don't necessarily always understand due to lack of clarity on their part as well, or your part. Either way, some common causes of misunderstanding on the top of the 36 plus that you've already shared. So thank you for sharing that. And so again, this is just some reasons why this is happening. Executive function, and it really impacts the way that we're able to process information. And you can take an executive function sort of test, and it will show you where the challenge is with that brains manager. But the bottom line is there's a reasonings behind all this, and sometimes it's can be tricky to navigate when others don't always understand. Okay. Now, this isn't about couples, right? Just to be clear, but I just thought it'd be really interesting to get some info from this book called ADHD After Dark. And it talks about there are challenges, but there's challenges with every single relationship. And so there might be a proneness to divorce, but doesn't mean it's a fact. Again, everyone's so individual. This isn't fact, but it's so interesting that there's a survey, and I think it was over like 3,000 couples with ADHD, and it was either the man had it, woman had it, or non-gender. The point is, there are stats around what's going on when it comes to communication. And I guess it's just about acknowledging that it's and normalizing it as well, so that we understand that, hey, we are just not alone. So before we kind of do this work, I did mention about personal acceptance before, personal development. We've got to practice that self-compassion towards ourselves, because sometimes, you saw all the responses. Some of the things are hard to navigate. They feel challenging, and they really impact our level of self-worth as well. And so we can question who we are. And so if we can reframe sort of those memories and stories as well, we can see different ways to change them so they empower us, so we can move forward with them, then that's probably a better, healthier way of moving forward. And one of the other things is kind of to remember your strengths in all of this. Regardless if you feel misunderstood or you are misunderstood, remembering who you are is going to do a heck of a lot in you being able to navigate through this. Oftentimes we question ourselves, and that can be a real big challenge. So let's talk about strengths. List some of your strengths. Be completely unapologetic about it. Let me know some of your strengths. And this is anonymous. I'll never know who said what, right? So let me know some of your strengths so that we can have this space to move forward with this work from that empowered place, rather than a place of feeling like we've got no power. What if we both in the relationship have ADHD? Again, there was some research in the book as well about that. Intuition's a great strength. Absolutely. So thank you for sharing that. I love that. Okay, great. There are so many reasons as to why you would get a diagnosis, and looking at those traits, requesting that assessment's a really good step. There are support systems available as well that will help you after the diagnosis, if you do go down that route. If you're still waiting, there are great resources online as well. Enthusiasm's a fantastic strength as well. Thank you for sharing that too. Willing to learn. Great, fantastic growth mindset. Creativity, attention to detail, and empathy. Yes, yes, and yes. Strong creativity, caring, support, hardworking. When you're able to focus, you can produce a lot of really good work. Great. Ability to complete tasks quickly to a high quality when inspired or interested in it. Fantastic. Creative, compassionate, determined, perseverance, compassion and empathy, empathetic and open-minded. You think outside the box. Ability to effectively communicate with others, even those you do not see eye to eye with. Fast thinking sometimes, very compassionate, hyper-focused, uses a lot of work in a short time. Great sense of humor. Creative, empathetic, friendly, understanding. Good at explaining something complex in a simple way. Good at presenting at the right level. Research, thinking things quite deeply, understanding people. Wide imagination. Great. You know your strengths. It's about striving to not let them turn into negatives. And I'm sure, like, yes, understanding those strengths is going to be key. And April just mentioned that she wrote a blog about ADHD and relationships for the EI website. And it's going to put a link in there as well when the webinar is uploaded. So great, fantastic. Again, additional resources. Thank you for sharing that, April. Ability to problem solve with confidence. Enthusiastic, empathetic, love to learn. Great, we've got 19. I know that you have some strengths here, and I thank you so much for sharing those. Again, it's anonymous. I will never know who said what, but the point is sharing these, right? Letting others know that, hey, fellow people here who are neurodiverse in this space have great strengths. We need to remember that. And sometimes we don't even know our strengths, right? So just being able to see other people shine means that we've got permission to do so as well. So fantastic. Empathetic, understanding, creative, sense of humor, lateral thinker, curious, quick noticer of subtle changes, big picture thinker, passionate, excitable, spontaneous. Yes, yes, and yes. Fantastic. Great, great, great. We know our strengths, right? Hold on to these strengths for a second. I want to ask you a question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe your strengths listed? How much do you believe in them? Great. We got 8.37. We had a 9 and it just went down. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much you believe the strengths? And it's kind of going between 7 and 6. Don't believe, strongly believe. We're at 7 at the moment. 7.1. Now, the reason why it's good to kind of measure where you're, how much you believe in your strengths is because it shouldn't be any less than a 10, right? Spend time believing in your strengths. It shouldn't be any less than a 10. And then you're thinking, oh yeah, but isn't we supposed to stay humble? And there's people that are ready to tell you all of the challenges they have quickly, right? We need to be very clear as to say, these are our strengths. I'm at a 10, even 11 sometimes, and completely believe in ourselves. And so this is the work we're doing as well. Sometimes you can be super confident about your abilities and other days not so. Okay, great. So find out what the pattern is when it comes to when you do believe, and anything that doesn't serve you to help you believe on a consistent basis, find ways to minimize them. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I get that. And I think there's some factors in our environment that basically impact the way we show up, and being able to remove those things, minimize those things, is really powerful. Okay. So another disclaimer, I already shared with you a disclaimer about me and how I show up. There's various types of ADHD, and co-occurring. So the challenges I'm about to share and solutions might not all be relevant. So like an outfit, try it on for size. If it doesn't suit you, find something else. Just imagine it being just like going into a changing room, putting it on, looking in the mirror, being happy with it, keeping it on, not being happy with it, finding something else. It's that simple. No hard feelings. This is stuff that we need, right? We need to be able to really recognize the differences that we have, but also the fact that we are able to shift the way we approach things. Sometimes mental health and others impede on this. Again, completely get that. And it's like, well, if what would a 10 look like? And working towards that on a daily basis might just be the thing that was really helpful. Let's get into the challenges. So a few ways, right? Again, this is not an exhaustive list. There's going to be things you've mentioned earlier on as to what you wanted to see in this workshop. It's not going to necessarily happen. Just keeping expectations very low because there are some challenges. And I just want to address that, hey, this is not an exhaustive list. So challenge 1, distraction. Before I give you the solutions, how may others perceive, judge, or misinterpret you being distracted when they're communicating with you? How are people kind of taking this out of context? When we're distracted, people have their own ideas of why we're distracted. Yes, coaching could help immensely. So there are some solutions here at EI. We do coaching. I know they're working on group coaching at the moment. So, you know, if you need that one-to-one support, so far we have quite a few things that people might be thinking about us when we are literally just living our life. When we are distracted, people think that you're being rude. Some people get irritated. There's this crosstalk issue. They think that we're bored. They think that we're not listening. They think that we're unintelligent. There's a whole bunch of judgments, misinterpretations, perceptions, right? That is happening. And again, I will share this as well. And there's a whole lot, right? And it's hurtful because that's not generally the case, but this is what's generally happening. People think I'm disinterested, rude, not bothered, or even uncaring. They don't understand racing thoughts and having literally 10 things that you're trying to problem solve all at once. So that, you know, can you see just how normalized it is when we just share what's going on with us and how we are perceived throughout the world? They think it's just being lazy. My children get annoyed. Same, my daughter gets really annoyed at me for being distracted. This is a lot, right? And I'm just going to go on to the next screen to give you some of the resources. So a possible solution, again, it's not an exhaustive list. Identify your most common distractions and try to address them before you start. Oftentimes when we're communicating, sometimes we've got other things on our mind, so we can't really be present. So identifying the most common distractions and trying to address them before we have those conversations is going to be really, really, really helpful. And I want to give you an example of what that could look like. These are some ways. To choose one of these 4, I find that scribbling out my thoughts before, just to sort of do a brain dump, really helpful for me. But which ones do you find the most would help you the most? Again, this is one of a couple of possible solutions. I know that if somebody interrupts me in midway through a conversation, I can completely lose my train of thought. Minimizing background noise. I've got some background noise I can even hear right now. Can't do much about it, but yeah, exactly. That would help. Getting that load of laundry going, not so much. So far, the winner, the thing that would help you reduce distractions the most is minimizing background noises, because there is some auditory processing deficit as well that comes along with neurodiversity, right? And when we have background noises, that can cause us to get distracted because of that sensory overload. So again, these are just some solutions. There's other solutions there. Try to write my argument or send in a text to have a conversation about the issues rather than bounce around topics. Taking notes when listening. On the phone, if someone in the room asks me a question, I just lose it. I can't function. Yeah, and we're going to get to that. So thank you, Tracy, Laurie, and Karimar. Absolutely great tips. Great ways to handle these challenges as well. Okay. So challenge number 2 is forgetfulness. Lorelei Gilmore, I praise you. There are times when we're going to forget what others have said to us. And so what causes you to forget when others are communicating with you? What causes you to forget? I know for me, if my daughter's talking to me, but I'm in the middle of working on something, I'm not going to remember the conversation. What about you? If I'm not in the room or on the visual and doing knitting or something else, my hands help. Memories of blanking out during an assessment, losing track of time. So yeah, so forgetfulness, right? You've got memories of blanking out during an assessment. Maybe you're just not present as well. So there's lots of different things that come up, right? What causes you to forget, losing track of time, hyper-focus mode, right? And time blindness, all of those things. Okay, so what causes this space we're in right now to forget when others are communicating with us. Distracted during a conversation, being interrupted, not writing things down or added to my calendar immediately, lack of relevance, absolutely. Don't know where to put it if I don't know see the relevancy. Too many things in the communication, thinking about something else mid-convo. Let me see. Separate thought pops into your head and takes your attention in the middle of doing something, or if you're listening to music or watching TV, trying to concentrate on something important, processing delays, multitude of random thoughts, too much stuff going on in your head, fixating on the first things they said and being unable to take in anything else, zoning out what you've missed, trying to focus on what they're saying, which distracts you from listening, right? Because you're thinking about what they says, you're thinking about thinking, and the next thing they said, you're like, not even available. Not being able to concentrate, if it's boring, repetitive, can't even say that word, not what I want to hear, monotonous, maybe. Again, thank you, dyslexia. Okay, so these are a few things. Focusing on how coming across and not being able to process what they're saying. Yeah, because you're in your head, you're like thinking, overthinking. And short working memory causes to forget as well, which is why we sometimes use those visual follow-ups as well. So thank you, I honor you, I see you, you are seen, heard and valued in this space. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Random thoughts, and there is a slow process in understanding what they're saying because there's too much information. And I am guilty of giving way too much information, put my hands up to that as well. So thank you. And you can see this is common. It's not just you, it looks, people in the community are forgetting things when we're communicating. Okay. So again, this is just a possible solution. Jot things down ahead of time so you remember what to say or ask. When you're in a meeting, for example, or you're having a conversation with somebody, before you have that conversation, put them down. And some people have already mentioned this before as in hints and tips of things that have worked for them. Taking notes, sometimes using your phone. I've had conversations with people where I've said, I don't remember you saying that. And sometimes my scribing is not up to par. I can't read what I just wrote, which is fun. And putting any agreed actions in your calendar straight away as well, so that you're following up. Again, possible solutions about forgetfulness. These are practical tips that could help you change and shift. Having to record, yeah, you have to record conversations as well. I use transcription sometimes. Sometimes I know this can be distracting for some, so I turn it off. But again, having that recording is helpful for me. Okay, challenge number 3, clamming up. Not knowing what to say next, almost, right? No words. Mourinho. Okay. What makes you clam up? Again, this is an interactive session. I'm going to ask you questions about how it shows up for you. I want to have the community being able to feed into this. It's not just about some of the info we found online. So what makes you clam up? What makes you not say, and if just to get clarification of clamming up, not being able to speak up, say what you need to say, almost becoming that person that can't process and articulate their words. It's almost like you've lost all ways to articulate what you want to say. You say nothing, you're just silent, sometimes you nod. What makes you clam up? When you get too emotional, I feel you. I'm here with you. Emotional overload, something unexpected going wrong and not knowing how to react or how to fix it. Yes. Yes. Anxiety, too many things to say. Yeah, because it's that overload, right? So maybe that tip of writing things down might be helpful. Interrupting people because maybe you've done it and somebody says, somebody's perceived you as being rude, so you started to clam up. If you feel attacked or need to make a quick decision and not given time to think things through, I feel that. And we're going to talk about that feeling attacked as well in a bit. Unsure what to say, intimidation, emotional worrying what other person will think, an unexpected reaction from the other person in the convo, scared of making it worse, to clam up, anxiety about saying too much, and fear of confrontation. Tracy, you've touched something there. I do not love confrontation. I avoid it, but I know it's needed, and I try not to be confrontational, but I know what you mean completely. Aggressive attitude from others, a loud environment, getting upset, feeling judged, worrying what the other person will think, feeling judged, not coming across as an emotional, maybe talking too much, receiving an abrupt put down. Yes. Felt that. Too much thoughts in your head and just no words, shock at a person's response, such as that clear misunderstanding or a lie, so not able to respond without time, so you freeze. Overthinking, worrying about if you understood what's being said or if it makes sense when I speak. When someone asks me a question I find out too hard to answer. Dealing with someone who is gaslighting you, knowing I have a point but not feeling empowered. And again, there might be a few tips coming up that might help with that. And again, this comes back to compassion about yourself and knowing who you are as well. And knowing that being misunderstood can cause us to question who we are. Blame for arguing, but only wanting to express yourself and ended up crying and being made fun of. I see you. When a person is not trying to understand what you're trying to convey and they make assumptions. When you're processing still, you don't know what to say, when you're feeling judged, when you think differently from others and you shut down or freeze, not feeling in tune with others, because maybe there's that group mentality we talked about earlier. When you know what you want to say in your head, but you don't know how to summarize and get it out clearly. Been there, completely understand that. I see all of this. I've been here, and the community is going to appreciate you sharing this, because this is great, just in terms of being able to share what we are going through and get our voices heard. Feeling completely misunderstood, explaining way too much, traumatic memories of the last time, couldn't think in an academic setting, fear of authority figures in educational settings. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to just share this. I love confrontation of any kind. Yeah. If anyone else, confrontation thing can resonate with that. Yeah. Not being able to say things properly as well, like I guess because you're getting emotional as well. So all of these things completely help us to understand each other more as well. So those things make us clam up. So with that in mind, similar, write down your thoughts and feelings in advance so you have a script to read from. And somebody did mention this earlier, so thank you for that, because that's helpful. And just having it here and knowing that somebody else has mentioned it means that hate's a tried and tested thing that works for somebody. Instead of talking one-to-one, write a letter or a note, right? Especially for those of us that don't really like confrontation, that might be really helpful as well. And explain you find this challenging and you need time to process. You have the right to say, I don't feel safe right now. I don't like this right now. This doesn't make me feel great. I need time to process. Can I come back to you? Being able to be assertive in that moment and say that. What causes you to zone out when you're communicating? Information overload, sleep deprivation, overwhelm, stress, and trauma. What causes you to zone out when communicating? Definitely for me, information overload. Got lots of information going on. I get lost because I'm trying to process it. That. But then if I haven't had enough sleep, can't process much. So all of these, but just maybe information overload, number one, sleep deprivation. Actually, no. Information overload. So it's yellow, red, and green for me. Stress, yes, and sleep deprivation. Being sleep deprived, yes, yes. Green, yellow, and red. Sleep. Yellow, red, and green. Green, yellow, and red. Being sleep deprived is my usual state. Yeah, there's times when I'm stressed and I'm sleep deprived, but luckily the good evening routine has helped me loads, bucket loads. Okay, so information overload, overwhelm, stress, sleep deprivation. Great, great, great. Fantastic. Thank you for the engagement. I appreciate you all. So here it is, zoning out. Try to have conversations in quiet places that are free of distractions. Sometimes distractions can really, really impact how you are zoning out. Sometimes they just can. Summarize or restate what they say or show your understanding. Again, this is maybe not in a setting like this. Summarizing what people have said to you can help you stop to zone out, because it's almost you're forcing yourself to be present and you're having to paraphrase and reframe what they've said as well. That could be really helpful. Asking those clarifying questions if you feel confused or uncertain. And this is confirmation for those of you that say you already do this. This is confirmation that what you are doing is enough. You are on the right path. Somebody needed to hear it. You are on the right path, right? If you already said this before, this is stuff you already do. You are on the right path. And get enough sleep and eating well. We know. If we don't eat well, then there are challenges. Challenge number 5. Being in defense mode. You're having the conversation, and then all of a sudden, you're finding yourself defending yourself. And this could be to do with RSD, feeling like you're attacked, right? So what could you do the next time you go into defense mode? I know I haven't given you any solutions right now, but when you get into defense mode, what could you do instead of defending yourself? Sometimes this is just about zoning out. Molly says, sometimes I'll say the last part I took in to alert them when the zone out happened and retrace. Fantastic technique, because you're almost saying, could you go back over the last point? Because this is what I last remember. Great. Fantastic. So what could you do the next time you go into defense mode? This is great insight, right? This will save you yonkers of time on research. People in the community are sharing with you right now what they would do. Take a deep breath and pause. Breathe. Take a moment to think and rest. Give time to process. Try not to respond right away. Give time to think and process when emotions have settled. Challenging your thoughts. Reason with yourself about what the other person's intention could be. Calm down. Take a moment to think before speaking. Ask for time to process and come back with a response. Amazing. Stop, breathe, process before responding. Amazing. If it's a close relationship, have an agreed safe words. Fantastic. And I was going to mention that as well. Consider if I'm being argumentative just to go, just to get the adrenaline for focus. Fantastic. So yeah, it's sometimes we just have to bring that awareness in, right? Why are we saying this, thinking this? Why are we in this mode? Well, what's happening for us? Agree to disagree. If you've not got a response yet of what you could do next time you go to defense mode, then these 10 things be gold mines, right? So with that in mind, possible solutions. Again, possible. Just like an outfit, try it on and see if it fits. If it's great, fantastic. Agree and state clear rules of engagement at the beginning of the conversation. Somebody already stated in the comments about if it's a close relationship, agree those safe words. Agree and stating rules of engagement. If I see you getting angry, I can say the safe word, or I can agree to walk away because I'm noticing that there isn't a safe space for us. Agree what's good in the conversation. We will not raise our voices. We will not challenge other areas of our lives that there's nothing to do with this conversation. Those things are really helpful just to have that in agreement. Remember what the end goal is of the conversation. Like, what are you trying to get to? Is it just to win the argument, or is it to find a solution? Recognize that they aren't attacking you. They're showing how they feel. Sometimes it can feel like an attack, though, let's be real. But recognizing that if I reframe it and see it as not an attack as well, that's helpful. And take a break from the conversation as well. So walking away, coming back, processing as well. So again, possible solutions. When it comes to communications and misunderstanding, what we're doing here is making sure when a rupture occurs, as in something's happening that isn't helping the relationships, we have to have the ability to apologize. That could be just to ourselves, the ability to forgive, again, ourselves, to teach and to learn. These things are helpful for us from that growth mindset point of view, because oftentimes there could be a person that might be stubborn about something, and that might stop them from repairing the relationship. Just a real quick note. I can go real deep about this stuff. So part 2, right? I'm going to give you a 4-step process to help you navigate important conversations with more ease. So R.I.M.S, just to give you that pattern interrupt and keep you focused. So R.I.M.S do more than make a vehicle look cool. A R.I.M will help with the performance and give you a smoother ride. So think of R.I.M.S, and there's context to this. Think of R.I.M.S as something that starts to help you have a smoother ride in your relationships, in your communication, right? It will enhance your performance. And R.I.M.S stands for something, if you haven't guessed. So R.I.M.S stands for, remember to breathe. Breathing actually helps you make better decisions. Remember to breathe. We've all said it before, but scientifically, breathing helps you to make better decisions. If you use medication, take this before any important conversations. Make clear, concise points and wait. And there are some step-by-step ways to make clear, concise points. And I'm sure we've got some blog articles that could help you with that too. And slow down so you can be heard, understood, and so that you have time to process what is being said. You get to control the pace. You get to slow down conversations. You get to speed them up. But when you get to slow things down, you can recognize and ascertain what's important here, what's happening. So that's what R.I.M stands for. Remember to breathe. If you use medication, take it before any important conversations, make clear, concise points and wait. Slow down so you can be heard, understood, and process information. So one of the, again, just about breathing, the science behind it. 2 minutes, deep, slow breathing engages the vagus nerve, which improves decision making. Imagine you being able to make better decisions if you just gave yourself 2 minutes. Deep, slow breathing helps you to do that. So I know some people like homework, some people don't, so I'll call it home play. Practice action-based, specific, and kind feedback. It's called ASK as an acronym. Action-based, specific, and kind feedback, as in when you're communicating with others. You want to stop being misunderstood or being misunderstood by others? Is this action-based? Is this specific? Is it kind? Look at the Wim Hof method. Search it up on YouTube. There's quite a few things there just about breathing, and create a rules of engagement for your interactions. Really simple, like how you want to communicate with others. This is the things you need to make it a safe space. We've gone through what some of the challenges are. We've also looked at the different solutions. I've given you a process called R.I.M.S to help you process things so you can minimize those misunderstandings. Now we're coming to the end. What's your biggest takeaway from this? What have you learnt or got greater insights on that has helped you around this topic? And there's going to be additional resources around this when we send out the recording as well. So please share how common these experiences are for folks. Exactly. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's not just me, and there are things I can do to improve. Absolutely. And sometimes it's a two-way street, right? It's that person being understanding and knowing that you're not making an excuse. This is part of your DNA as well. Recognize and then helping them. Sarah, thank you. Quite a few things you haven't tried. Amazing. And you know, the collectiveness of this, being able to share what you already know and what works for you, powerful. So the more you can do that, the better. Why people zone out of conversations, really useful to see tips and processes. Also love seeing everyone's responses. Great to know we have similar experiences. Safe words for arguments to keep each other safe in time to process info before saying something you didn't mean. Absolutely. Various ways it can impact on people beyond just communication. Everything was helpful knowing I am not alone in this. Fantastic. Amazing. How shared these experiences are. Thought it was just you. Exactly. You're not alone. You are not alone. And having these conversations, normalize it, makes other people understand, actually, I need to help a bit more. I need to help people that, be their allies and advocates in this, knowing that these are some of the challenges that comes up for them. Most of you have found out I have ADHD, but really assured that so many others have similar experiences. Quite emotional. Thank you for being here. Fantastic to hear it's been helpful. How so many people have the same communication issues, to be more aware that I'm in a situation that isn't going well, to stop and to breathe. Fantastic. Ways and strategies to use to help focus more when trying to engage with others. Fantastic. Amazing. A lot of things mentioned I didn't know has a direct relation to ADHD. Great. So now it's just that awareness piece, right? And knowing this too.
I think I've avoided wanting to think of myself as a victim in any way, shape, or form. But because of a lot of stuff that's happened to me through COVID, through divorcing, being gaslit by my ex-partner, I've also realized that I need to empower myself. And it's also had an impact at work because, the things that might be negative with it, or you feel that you might take as a negative in admitting it. I only got diagnosed at 44 and 46. So feels sometimes almost like you're disempowering yourself, but at the same time, by me kind of accepting it and saying that to people, it's put me in a situation to say, well, actually, I do have some features that need to be protected. I am realizing more and more by, taking on workshops like this, that there are things that I've made a lot of concessions for in the past without really understanding and putting myself kind of in the firing line. Whereas now I can say, okay, well, it's not an excuse per se, but it's saying that I actually need to to figure this out. And while I'm doing so, I may be impacted in this way, or I can open the conversation. And it's a protected characteristic. So it at least gives you, I think, a little bit more leeway in trying to sort yourself out, because I've had to, titrate medication and all of these other things that have come with the diagnosis. And, even in using forms like these or other, kind of self-help groups, understanding that, it's not a one fix for everybody, but you're trying to figure this out in terms of managing your own life, your relationships, your work, all of these other things that maybe have not been so great for you.
Great question. And I love the response to that. And I guess that people have mentioned it in the chat, the more we're able to have conversations and open it and normalize these conversations and talk about the challenges, but solutions and who we are, the less stigma is attached to it.
It's just to say as well that for anyone getting diagnosed a little bit later on in life, even if you're in your 20s, you also have to give yourself a little compassion, because you've probably learned to manage your symptoms in another way. And I know for me, the biggest difference has been because my kids are in their 20s and I was so used to organizing everybody else, it's had a huge impact of COVID and having to do things for myself, living alone for the first time in 20 years has been quite difficult. So then you're having to kind of adjust, and I'm having to actually explain to people some of the problems that they didn't actually see, because I seem to have enough together in a way that it wasn't as evident. So it's a catch-22. But I think it's also giving yourself enough compassion to say it actually doesn't matter too much what people's opinions are going to be, because, I've had people fully say, oh, they don't think I have ADHD, which is like, it's not for me to prove or anyone to prove, but it's for you to know and for you to probably set a little bit more boundaries than you probably have done in the past.
Fantastic. People that have said that they're interested in mentoring, I will, when I send the PDF out, I'll have links to how you can get involved in mentoring, job coaching, volunteering, and subscribing to our channel so that you have everything you need for your next steps. So I'll share all four things. I don't know any websites in the US, but I'll check with the team to see if there are any resources in the US for job coaching, because I'm sure that we might have some partners there, but I'll double check as well. So yeah, attitude.com will have a list of coaches in US. Whether they have something similar to EI, I'm not sure in terms of being able to offer that, but there might be something to do with the sort of workplace. So do check out attitude.com. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, John. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Karina. Thank you, Karima, Veronica. Thank you so much, all of you, for attending this and being able just to share your experiences as well. So thank you all. Take care.